Hello, welcome to Book Talk. I'm your host, Anthony Morore. At Book Talk, we get to have an author come and tell us about their book. And today we have a great author and a good topic that we are going to cover. Maybe it's something that you said day and day, every single day you hear about it, but you don't know much history about it. But today, someone is going to tell us about the Coca-Cola. And without taking one more minute, I'm going to introduce to the show Larry Jorgensen. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, thank you. This is going to be a wonderful experience.
Oh,
Looking
yeah,
forward.
I'm looking forward to it too because there's so many questions I ask about the Coca Cola. And now, since you're here, and I believe you've got a lot of experience just from the look of it.
We did a lot of research, and
Yeah.
the interesting thing about the book, Anthony, um, no one has. There's been a lot of books written about Coca-Cola, about
Hmm.
the corporate Coca-Cola. No one has written a book with details about all the bottlers, the people who made Coca Cola happen.
Ah,
And I was surprised when I got started with this to find out that I was blazing a new trail.
cool.
It's been fun, and it's been a lot of interesting stories that we've been able to gather for the book.
Oh, and that's beautiful. So, for those of you who are joining us, we have Larry, who's written The Coca-Cola Trail. That's about the people, places, in the history of Coca-Cola. So, we are going to have a great ride.
Uh,
Um, please tell us, before we go to how you wrote the book, let us maybe know, go deep, right deep inside it, and know how did all the Coca-Cola issue start? I mean, where did it all come from?
why did I start the book? Because that
No, the Coca-Cola. How the origin of
How did it
Coca-Cola?
start? Okay. Well, Coca Cola, it started as a syrup, obviously, and it still is. The syrup was invented in Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, by Mr. John Pemberton, and he had been in the Civil War and was injured. He also had been a pharmacist of sorts before the war. So when
Mhm.
he came back after the war and was suffering pain from his injury, he started experimenting with things he knew to try to get pain and not get drug addiction. And he finally came up with this concoction, this syrup of made of coca leaf and cola nut. And he made this syrup, and it gave him relief. And he thought, this is wonderful. Well, by then he had moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and was doing, his pharmacy work there. Uh, and he finally developed the Coca-Cola syrup, and he took it to the local drugstore where they had a fountain. And he said, try this, sell this to a customer. And so, you take a little syrup, you put it in a glass, you give it a little shot of carbonated water, and you have a beverage. Well, it was for, as they say, medicinal purposes. It was to cure pain or whatever. Well, as it turned out, it also tasted pretty good. So the way it got started in places like that, drugstores that had the little soda fountains, and it was sold as a syrup to the drugstore owner to serve for, to help serve, solve pain and things like that. Um, it actually, John Pemberton was himself. After about 3 years, he sold the Coca Cola formula and the rights to it to Asa Candler. Now, Mr. Candler thought this is a great product and people are enjoying it, so he set off to sell the syrup all over the country. And he would sell it to people who had drugstores, had soda fountains, and the idea was to buy the syrup and to make the drink at the soda fountain. Well, we start the book, chapter one, we start in Vicksburg, Mississippi, because that place is the first place that Coca-Cola was put in a bottle. There was Mr. Pembert, I'm sorry, Mr. Biedenharn, Mr. Joe Biedenharn had a little soda fountain in a candy store, and he was selling it, across the counter. And he thought, I mean, this was 1895, not much transportation. And he thought, if I could bottle this drink, I could get it to the people in the country. Because it was a long trip from the country to town, no cars, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So he bought a little secondhand bottling machine up in St. Louis, because they were bottling in those days. They were bottling sarsaparilla and orange and all that. So
Yeah.
he was able to buy a little bottling machine, and he started bottling Coca-Cola. No one had ever bottled Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as it turned out, he sent a couple cases. His first cases, he sent them to Mr. Candler, who was selling him the syrup.
Mm-hmm.
Let him know what he was doing. And Mr. Candler said, "Oh, it's okay, but yeah, I'm not worried about that. That's not for me. I sell syrup.
Mm-hmm.
So Mr. Biedenharn, who was in Vicksburg, was bottling Coca-Cola for 5 years before anybody else ever bottled it.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is, Coca-Cola, Asa Candler, who owned the company and was making the syrup, didn't think bottling was a good idea. He thought that is really a dumb idea.
Mm-hmm.
And it was finally two attorneys from Chattanooga, Tennessee, that said, this is a great drink and bottling it is a good idea. So they went all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, and they talked to Asa Candler, who was making the syrup,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, we want the rights, the exclusive rights in the United States to bottle Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Candler said, no, that's really a dumb idea. He said, I don't like that idea. I'm worried the flavor of the Coca-Cola might change. He said, no, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Well, they can't, so they go back to Chattanooga and they said, we're going to try again. They go back to Atlanta. They meet with Asa Candler again, and they again tell them, we'll buy the rights. So finally, I think he just got tired, of listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I'll tell you what, your attorneys, you go back to your hotel tonight, you draw up a contract, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
and you bring it to me in the morning. So they bring him a contract to be the exclusive United States, the only bottler for Coca-Cola. So he read the contract and he said, well, I can't let you have the rights to Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
because old Joe's already been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
So he sold them, Anthony, he sold them the rights to bottle Coca-Cola. They were the only ones that could do it in the United States for $1, for $1, okay?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and the story is that he never even bothered to collect the dollar. And he told them before they went back to Chattanooga, he said, I still think this is really a dumb idea. He
Yeah.
said, I think, bottling is a backstreet business. He said, if this doesn't work, don't you come crying back to me about
Yeah.
it. So
Mm-hmm.
they go back to Chattanooga. Now they've got the rights to bottle Coca-Cola all over the United States, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These two guys, they're nice guys, but they only have $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
They go back to Chattanooga and they set up a little bottling plant. And
Mm-hmm.
it was really, really crude, very old fashioned. They didn't quite have it under control. When the bottles would be filled and carbonated, some of them would explode, and
Yeah.
they thought, how in the world are we going to bottle Coca-Cola for the whole country?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Anthony, we have a story over here about a dog chasing a car. And
Yeah.
when the dog chases the car, what do you do with it? See, so they were kind of like the dog. They would chase the Coca-Cola, they got it, and now what are they going to do with it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
they said, wait a minute, we've got the rights. You know, today we call that franchising, don't we?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so they started cutting the country up into little pieces. If
Okay.
you wanted to bottle Coca-Cola in Paducah, Kentucky, you would talk to them, and they would sell you a 50-mile area in Paducah, Kentucky, for
Mm-hmm.
$1,500, $2,000, and you'd have the rights to bottle Coca-Cola.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you bottled Coca-Cola, of course, you had to use the Coca-Cola syrup. So,
Okay.
right? So it would be Coca-Cola. So you would buy the syrup from Atlanta, Georgia, where Asa Candler was making it.
Mm-hmm.
But every time you bought syrup from Georgia, the guys that sold you the territory, they got a commission on that. So
Wow.
you bought syrup, they sold you the territory, they still made money every time you bought syrup
Mm-hmm.
from Georgia. Okay, so
Yeah.
that's how Coca-Cola grew in the United States.
Okay.
They started selling territories, and
Ah.
that's really, I say in my book, that's how the Coca-Cola empire got started. Was
Mm.
all these people that invested a little money and a lot of work and a lot of desire to create a product and put it in the marketplace for sale. And look at
Wow.
what's happened. You've
Yeah.
got Coca-Cola,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
great. But it's interesting how Coca-Cola, at first they thought, no, bottling is really not a good idea. And look
Yeah.
at Coca-Cola today. Where do you get it? In a
It,
bottle, in a can. You,
everywhere in the world, every continent, every country in the world.
yeah, it is true. You and I are talking. I've talked to many people like this in England. I
Mm-hmm.
even talked to a man who has a big radio station in Dubai,
Okay.
and we did a big interview, and same thing. And then I looked at information about Dubai, and the big soccer arena in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's the Coca-Cola soccer arena. Coca-Cola sponsors it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, Anthony, they're everywhere.
Yeah,
And
they're everywhere. And to come to think that Coca-Cola, all these years I've heard that Coca-Cola is made from a secret ingredient that nobody else in the world can copy.
well,
You, Mhm.
it is true. They do have a formula that's pretty unique, and it is in fact why Coca-Cola has been successful, because
Mhm.
that flavor carries through. I'll give you a good story. Maybe you remember, uh, one time Coca-Cola came out with what they called the new Coke. You remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
That was
Mhm.
1980s, and what
Mhm.
happened at that time? Pepsi had a little challenge going. It was called the Pepsi Challenge,
Mhm.
and you would go, and they would have two little glasses of one of Coke, one of Pepsi. You didn't know which was which, and you would
Mhm.
sample. And a lot of people were picking Pepsi. They'd
Yeah.
sample, and
Mhm.
Coca Cola was like, what's happening here? They like Pepsi. So Coca Cola analyzes this. They get their fancy, pharmacists or what, scientists, and they determine, well, yes, Pepsi is sweeter.
Mhm.
That's the answer. So Coca Cola, you talk about your formula, right? They create
Mhm.
a new formula and they make it sweeter,
Mhm.
and they come out with the new Coke. They spend 2 years and a lot of money telling people this is it, this is the new Coke. Well, you know what? People didn't like it. People
Mhm.
did not. You know why they didn't like it?
Why?
The reason why, very simple for you and I to understand now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you get two little drinks of something and one is sweeter and they say, which do you like? You'll probably pick the one that's sweeter.
Yeah.
But if they give you two big glasses to drink, what are you going to enjoy the most? You're going to enjoy the one that you can drink all the way and not feel all that sweetness, you know?
Yeah.
And that people, when I did the book, Anthony, I would talk to Coca-Cola bottlers, distributors, and they would tell me, oh, when they came out with that new Coca-Cola, our salespeople would be in the stores and they'd be putting up the new Coca-Cola, and little old ladies would come up to them and threaten them with their umbrellas, say, "If you don't bring back my Coca-Cola, you're gonna get it." And finally, it took them 2 years
Mm-hmm.
of getting complaints from customers to realize they'd made a mistake.
Okay.
And they went back to the original Coca-Cola. So
Mm-hmm.
that formula has a lot of value. And today, any Coca-Cola has so many products, but
Okay.
the
Yeah.
basics of the products that they make, that they if you it says on the can Coca-Cola, it's got to some degree that original formula in it. You
Mm.
know, I don't know if where you are you've tried yet or you can get, but they've recently come out with a Coca-Cola coffee flavor. It's
Oh.
in those it's in those thin cans, and they have four flavors. There's a regular coffee dark. There's a vanilla, a mocha, and so forth. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing. I'm not a big Coca-Cola drinker. When I started doing the book, I didn't drink that much Coca-Cola. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a good story. And
Mm.
I do like the new Coca-Cola coffee flavor. It's got a little. Remember they come out Coca-Cola cherry, Coca-Cola vanilla. I mean it goes on and on. Well, this
Yeah.
is another flavor they've added, and I'll give them an A on that one. That's a good one.
Okay, and let's go. Let's go here now. Since you say you are not a very good fan of Coca-Cola, what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I'm a freelance writer, and I'm a
Okay.
writer. That's what I do. Okay.
Mm.
And I had learned that in Vicksburg, where they first bottled Coca Cola, they had restored the little store where it was done, and it was a museum you could go visit. You could see the type of equipment and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I found out that about 60 miles away, there's another museum, Coca Cola Museum, and it actually is a museum that honors the family that started the bottling in Vicksburg. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought for someone that was looking for an interesting trip. The two buildings are close, the two towns. So I thought I'll do a story, a travel story for the
Mm-hmm.
travel magazines about visiting these two Coca-Cola museums. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a good story. Well, I go to Vicksburg and I get my information, take pictures, and then I go to Monroe, Louisiana. Well, while I'm there, I am able to meet with one of the descendants, a great great grandson of the
Mm-hmm.
man who first bottled Coca Cola. And he
Okay.
started telling me their story. And what are you doing? I tell him what I'm doing. He said, that's not just here, it's all over the United States, and no one's written about it, about the wonderful families that have started and have continued to bottle Coca Cola. So
Mm-hmm.
he encouraged me. He said, look at this. And he gave me names of other families that had been involved for generations. And I realized it indeed was a book.
Mm-hmm.
And I counted on him a lot to give me ideas, where are places I could go. Well, the first book took 2.5 years, and I visited Coca Cola families, bottlers all over primarily the south, southwest, southeast, because that's where the history started. They
Yeah.
got some great stories, met some wonderful people. They would dig out photos, from their family albums. Look at here's in fact in the book, the first page, the first chapter about Vicksburg, we've got a picture from the one family book of a gentleman driving a mule driven wagon loaded with cases of Coca Cola. This
Mm.
was like in 1986. Well, what could he be? But he had to be the world's first Coca Cola delivery man. And
You
we got a
mean
big
you mean 1896?
1896.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his horse-drawn wagon. It's loaded up with wooden cases of Coca-Cola. No doubt, he is the world's first Coca-Cola delivery man, and we got a
Mm.
big picture of him in the book. That's the kind of photos that we were able to find, and we went to historical societies in different towns where they would have newspaper articles and pictures of them. So there's a lot of history in the book. We kind of say the book is travel and history
Mm-hmm.
because people and places. It's where you. What we tried to do is go to places that are still there. They
Mm-hmm.
may not be Coca Cola. Maybe it's an old plant now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's now maybe a museum, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's an entertainment center or a shopping center, but place where you could go, Anthony, and see something that was Coca Cola. And while you're there, we're going to tell you what it is. So it's
Mm-hmm.
travel and it's history. And,
Mm.
and there are great stories all over the country of how it all got started, and what the different things that families did, and bottlers did to make the drink popular. People had never heard of Coca. What is Coca Cola? So
Yeah.
those are the stories that Coca Cola Corporate has never told you. So that's
Yeah.
what we did.
And I want to believe in the history of Coca-Cola and the people that you tell us about all the way. This should be very wealthy families.
They
They,
are. In
uh-huh.
fact, in the forward, I've done two books. I did a sequel, okay, but in the first book, uh, the forward to that book was written by this gentleman I had met, who was a great great grandson, and and he talked about the value of Coca Cola, what it's been to his family, and he said, we realize that getting a the ability and the to bottle and sell Coca Cola was like getting the keys to a gold mine. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because and there are so many families. Anthony, there was one family in Chattanooga that got involved with this original group that had the franchise, right? And he got involved.
Mm-hmm.
He actually bought part of that business, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And through the years, he also sold Coca-Cola franchises to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what he would do, he a lot of times he it might be a friend or a relative or someone that he really knew, and if they didn't have the money, the $1,500 or whatever, he would help finance it. But
Mm-hmm.
to do that, he got part of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So through the years, he acquired ownership of some degree in Coca Cola plants all over the country. Well, this was handed down from one in his family to another to another. Finally, the third generation had this, and it continued to grow. And it was to the point where Coca Cola Corporate was trying to buy some of these.
Mm-hmm.
They bought what that man had started 3 generations ago. They bought all of his interest in Coca Cola plants for
Mm-hmm.
$1.3 billion.
Mm.
Not billion, billion. Okay.
Yeah.
That and there's a lot of stories like that. where people, as it's typical business, families for whatever reason the kids don't want to do it anymore, or it's time to sell and go fishing or whatever, so they sell. And
Mm-hmm.
and there's been a lot of money made just in selling of those companies.
Yeah. And when you talk about money and you speak in billions, one of the things that fascinates me with the Coca-Cola story, I don't know whether it's there in the book, it's their way of marketing. And when I look at their budget, I see that in a year, Coca-Cola spends $4 billion in advertising. That's
Right.
how it gets to the whole world.
Well, they're everywhere, just like we're talking about the stadium in Dubai, right? I mean,
Mm,
Asa Candler once said, and this was way back in 1920 something, he was in Hollywood. He was talking to somebody in Hollywood. And, he said, because they were doing a lot of outside signs, the big outside Coca. And he told a movie producer in Hollywood, the day will come where you cannot shoot a movie, make a movie outside without there being a Coca-Cola sign in the background. Well, but they're involved. Anthony, not only they're advertising,
mhm,
again, the secret, because you have all these bottlers in these communities, they get involved in their community.
mhm,
They do scholarships, they sponsor things, they build football stadiums, they put up billboards with, at the stadiums. Whatever the community needs, Coca-Cola is there. And
mhm.
that's really their involvement. I mean, yeah, I don't know if where you are they have the Christmas trucks yet.
Yeah,
Do they have the trucks? The
they
big
do.
trucks that come at Christmas, they're all decorated.
I have seen one once.
Well, you know what happened there? That started out. The original one was an advertising agency created the truck. It wasn't even a real truck, and
Mm-hmm,
it was so popular that ad that Coca-Cola said we should do these all over the world. We should do real Coca-Cola Christmas trucks
mm-hmm,
and decorate the trucks and come to town and give away things to the people and so forth. And it's amazing. They're everywhere. It's just another example of Coca-Cola wanting to be part of the community they're in. They are, and that's I found that in doing the research and meeting with these people, the love for Coca-Cola.
mm-hmm,
It's not it's as much the memory as the drink.
mm-hmm,
People remember good times. They remember there's places and we write about it in the book where these big signs, these outdoor signs, they get old, and
yeah,
people will spend communities will spend thousands of dollars to restore the sign to bring it back to life.
mm-hmm,
It's a
mm-hmm,
piece of advertising. And I asked someone, and I've asked a couple of times about when I would write about one of these signs, I'd say, well, why are you restoring it? They
mm-hmm,
don't do it for other signs. They say because Coca Cola has such important memories in our town. They've done so much, and we remember as children we'd go by and they'd have the watch the bottles being filled, and
mm-hmm,
chances are. If you were a little boy and you were standing outside and they were bottling Coca Cola, somebody inside would see you and they'd bring you a couple Coca Colas.
mm-hmm,
But it's those memories that have made what Coca Cola is.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, it's a great drink, but it's their involvement. When you see that Coca Cola logo,
mm-hmm.
it, it's one of those warm, what they say, warm and fuzzy things.
Yeah, sure, sure.
And that is the key to why they have been so successful. I had a gentleman contact me a couple of weeks ago who is an avid Coca-Cola fan. He's a historian for them, and he said, the difference between Coca-Cola and Pepsi
Mm-hmm,
is that Coca-Cola allowed people all over the country to become involved and to become successful and wealthy. They
mm-hmm,
said Pepsi never did that. It's
Mm-hmm.
always corporate does it, corporate makes the money, and that's the end, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it truly is. They've gotten people involved in selling their product. What
Mm-hmm.
a what a neat idea, Anthony. You and I should come up with something that we could get a lot of people to sell for us,
Yeah,
right?
because that's why I was coming. Now, since they had such a big uh, success in whatever they are doing, it's a gold mine that someone saw somewhere. Do you think we've still got that gold mine somewhere that we can come up with something and we blow it as big as Coca-Cola?
I think it's probably going on right now. If we look at some of the technology and things that are way beyond my old tired head. Okay, uh, it's just different. Coca Cola has such a grassroots thing to it that we like to hang on to it and talk about it because it's the kind of thing that if you and I had been around in the early 1900s, we we would have had the opportunity for a little bit of money to become very very wealthy. So
Mm-hmm.
it's true. You know, I tell you a story about the. You want to hear a story about the Coca Cola bottle?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay, you know, as Coca Cola became successful in the early 1900s, a lot of people talk about people wanting to be involved. There were a lot of people that made cola drinks,
Mm-hmm.
and they were calling them churro cola. They were calling it Coca Cola spelled with a K, and in those days bottling was whatever bottle you could find, you put the stuff in, right? You put a
Mm-hmm.
label on it. So maybe you called it Coca Cola with a K and you put it in there. People would go into the store and they'd see the word cola.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and they'd buy it. Well, because Coca Cola, the little bottlers in those days, it's whatever bottle they could find was available. That's what they were bottling. Coca-Cola Corporate in 1905 said, wait a minute, we're losing sales because people are confused. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know, okay? We want a bottle that when you pick it up, when you look at that bottle, you know that's the real Coca-Cola and no one else will have that bottle. They go to the bottle makers, the companies that make bottles,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, we have a competition. We want you to each design a bottle that will become the Coca Cola bottle. And the company that has the best one will get the contract to make all the Coca Cola bottles. So there were five companies that entered the competition.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1905, they had a meeting in Georgia, in Atlanta, Georgia, where all the Coca Cola bottlers at that time came to the meeting, and the five companies that each had made bottles were there to present their bottles. Well, obviously, one of them won the bottle that we all know, um, and that bottle was made by Indiana, the Root Glass Company. So that bottle was selected, and Coca Cola said, now each company had brought like five bottles to show their
Mm-hmm.
different styles. Coca Cola said, okay, we're going to select this one. We want all the other bottles destroyed. And as far as the one we selected, we want to keep one to put in the archives of Coca Cola.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thing. That was what was supposed to happen. Well, what happened is the family of one of the men who designed the original bottle, they were able to keep one. Okay, nobody knew this. Okay, they kind of slipped it out of there. So there were actually two kept. There was one bottle that's in the Coca-Cola archives in Atlanta. There's this other bottle that stayed in this family for generations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, about 3 years ago, the bottle came up for sale at an estate auction in California.
Mm.
That bottle sold for over $150,000. That one bottle. And the
Yeah.
reason we know it was the bottle, on the bottom of the bottle was embossed 1905.
Mm.
Coca-Cola never started using that bottle until 1906. It
Okay.
was the one survive $150,000. And when I was a kid, many years ago,
Yeah.
I'd take a Coca-Cola bottle back to the store and I'd get 2 cents for
Yeah.
it.
I remember that.
You know, so
I
you
did.
so here's a Coca-Cola bottle that went for $150,000.
Oh.
There's a lot of people that collect Coca-Cola bottles.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. This is,
You
and
know,
there's a lot of items that people collect today. Those interesting advertisements of the 60s.
oh, the Coca-Cola logo is on every trays and signs, and there is a group, and it's an international group of Coca-Cola collectors,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a big convention once a year. Uh, this year, in fact, they're having it in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and all these collectors come and they display all their different things they collect, and they trade items and swap and sell and so forth. And I've been to a couple of them. It is absolutely amazing the things that they find that has Coca-Cola logo on it.
Mm.
Uh, the danger of that, if you're thinking of getting into that,
Uh-huh.
is the value is in the original thing. Like they have the trays, the Coca-Cola trays,
Mm.
and there's been so many companies that have gone to Coca-Cola and have gotten permission to make reproductions.
Okay.
But the reproductions, I mean, they are of little value compared to the originals. So if you decide you want to be a Coca-Cola collector, make sure you can look at the back. And Coca-Cola requires that if you're doing a reproduction, you better say it's a reproduction.
Yeah.
So the original items, like the trays are a big collector item. The
Mm.
original items, they go for a lot of money. And the collectors, and the original signs, the Coca-Cola for sale here signs and things like that. If you get an original one, and that's worth a lot of money, and that's what they look for.
Uh, whoa. I would love to be on one of those events to see those collectibles.
I'm sorry, Anthony, repeat what you said.
I say sometime in the future, I would love to be in such an event where I'm going to see the collectibles from near.
Yeah, there should that would be great, and I'm sure that the people all over the world collect them. So why not? Well, have one
Mm.
in Greece. It would be great. Have one in Dubai. I mean, everybody knows Coca-Cola. It would be great to have one there.
I
So
think
far,
something is happening with the microphone over there, but it's okay. We've been okay, but
are
anyway,
we doing? Are we okay now?
yeah, we are okay. We are okay. Only that it's making some noises at some points, but anyway, let's keep moving.
Okay, so anyhow, that's a big thing is the Coca-Cola collectibles, and a lot of people do that,
Mhm.
but it's just and I'm not a big Coca-Cola fan. I'm not someone say, oh, he must really like Coca-Cola. You know, I have never collected anything until I got into this book,
Mhm.
and then a couple of the bottlers had certain things like there was a bottler up in northern Mississippi that on his
Mm.
100th anniversary of the company, they made a special tray. So while I was visiting him, he gave me one of the trays and I kept it and it's on display. And there's a lot of that. But as far as being a collector, no, I don't collect and I don't have to drink 6 bottles of Coca Cola a day like some people. But it's truly an amazing product. And
Mm.
my hats are off. My hats off to them.
Okay, and now we thank you that you've written a book about it that we are going to add to the collectibles that we are going to take of Coca-Cola. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Anthony. I've enjoyed it. The
Mm.
book is available on the website, the Coca-Cola Trail.com. And like I said, we've written a second book, which is called Return to. So lots of Coca-Cola memories.
Oh, wonderful. And we are going to share the links on the show so that people can just click and go to the websites to get the book.
Right. That's right.
Yes, and at Book Place, or rather this book talk episode, we always ask the author to leave us with a few words that we will always remember. Few words.
A few words. Well, I think the words for fellow authors would be to write something you're interested in, whether it's a novel that has a theme that you really can get excited about, or whether I write nonfiction about something I'm interested in, because that's the motivation to finish the book, to finish what you're writing, is you enjoy it. So be motivated in your writing. That's the best thing.
Ah, wonderful. And thank you very much. So here we've been with Larry Jorgensen with the book, The Coca-Cola Trail. And we thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Anthony. I have enjoyed it very much.
Yes, and we also thank you, the viewers there and the listeners. And remember to share it with your friends. And don't forget to also get the book. That's why we are here.
Thank you.
So that's it for now. Bye. Until next time. Bye.